Intervals are the distance between two notes. Recognizing the sound of different intervals by ear is a key part of your development as a guitarist. When you hear a note, the ability to know the pitch of any other note from the previous note is called relative pitch. Intervals are simply the distance between two notes. So, there are 12 different notes in music, and again we can imagine them as blocks. Now the distance between each note block is called a half-step interval. A half-step interval on the guitar's fretboard is 1 fret. So the distance between blocks 1 and 2 is a half-step interval, and the distance between blocks 2 and 3 are a half-step interval, and so on. Now a whole step interval means you skip a note. A whole step interval in the guitar's fretboard is 2 frets. For example, the distance between the first note and the third note is a whole step interval. The distance between the third note and the fifth note is also a whole step interval. The intervals of the major scale, the distance between the notes, are used to describe distances. Now you probably remember singing the Do-Re-Mi song when you were a child. And if so, you probably already know the major scale, because the Do-Re-Mi song is the major scale. Here's the major scale in the key of C. It should sound familiar. You've heard it in songs all of your life. The major scale is a pattern of 7 notes from the 12 different notes in music. You can construct the major scale by using this interval pattern. Whole step, whole step, half step, whole step, whole step, whole step, half step. This pattern is the formula for the major scale. Let's look at the blocks again and you can see the intervals of the major scale. The WS means whole step and the HS means half step. To construct a major scale in any key signature, we simply start on the note that is the same as the name of the key signature. For example, to construct the major scale in the key of C, we start on the note C and follow the formula. The C note would be our first step in the scale. It can also be called the root note. Every note in the major scale is given an interval name describing the distance between it and the first step of the scale, or the root note. The second scale step is called a second. On the guitar, it is 2 frets from the root note. The third scale step is called a major third. On the guitar, it is 4 frets from the root note. The fourth scale step is called a fourth. On the guitar, it is 5 frets from the root note. The fifth scale step is called a fifth. On the guitar, it is 7 frets from the root note. The sixth scale step is called a sixth. On the guitar, it is 9 frets from the root note. Now the seventh scale step is called a major seventh. On the guitar, it is 11 frets from the root note. 12 frets above the root note is the octave. From C to the next C at a higher pitch is an octave. They are the same notes and sound alike except they are at different pitches. Let's check out the C major scale again, being played in sequence from the lowest note to the highest note and back down again. The note at the top, the 8th note, is the octave of the first note. Here is how the notes line up on the fretboard by using the C note on the first fret of the B string as our starting point. Intervals can be extended above the octave too. Now the major and minor third intervals are very important in music. Every chord has one or the other, except for a few exceptions, and there are 2 fundamental types of chords, major and minor. The third interval is what determines if the chord is major or minor. Check out each interval and hear the difference. Each interval is played with both notes separate and then both notes together. Can you tell the difference? The major third interval sounds pretty common. That's no surprise because you hear them in all major chords, and major chords are the most common chords used in music. The minor third is heard in minor chords. Many people associate minor chords, and therefore the minor third intervals, as a sad sound or a blues sound. If you listen several times, you can tell the difference between the two of them.